Hey everybody, welcome again to another episode of Just for Fun Games. I am Jonathan Rodriguez, otherwise known as Azzy, and with me as always is my friend Nicholas Murga, otherwise known as Roy. And we are here again for the newest episode of WandaVision titled Previously on Episode 8, which isn't an hour as we would technically want it to be, but credit where credit is due. If you include the credits, this is a show that's based on syndicated that spoofs syndicated television. So if it had commercials, it would be an hour-ish. Fine, if that's how you want to twist it.
Yeah, well, what'd you think?
Well, before we get started, this is your spoiler warning. This is your spoiler warning. There's no way we're going to be able to be spoiler free in this episode. It's impossible in this series. So if you haven't seen the show, please watch it, come back, listen to us like ramble off on tangents, and yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay, so this is an episode about context. And shortly before we started recording, I dipped into some other content creators and some typical publications to see what they thought. And I got a sense that some people did not exactly like the progression of this episode. They thought, oh well, we know this already. It's like, I mean, kind of.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
mean,
it's the difference between finding out that Batman's parents were murdered and then seeing Batman's parents be murdered.
yeah,
Not that we ever don't see
yeah,
Batman's
man. We
parents
always
get
see
murdered.
it, and we always see him get murdered. But to me, this episode compare like I always compared to the last episode to the episode before that. This one I connected more with because
Oh, it was.
because you're seeing like I don't want to bring up my personal stuff in it, but seeing Wanda through her eyes, you see her parents open up the case with all the old American sitcoms. Hence why we have in Bewitched, I Love Lucy, Malcolm in the Middle, all that mess. So we finally see why she pretty much did this whole fantasy, and see,
And her mom had tried to hide. Her mom tried to hide the reality. I had tried to create this haze, this facade in these shows to try and protect her kids from the reality that was right outside their window.
yeah, and like because it was like when the music dipped down and it was all like they were all enjoying this Dick Van Dyke show, and it was that one moment where you see the Stark missile fall right down into it, and it fades to black real quick, and then you wake up and you see Wanda still alive, and
Dog.
I didn't see Dog, but yeah, Wanda's still alive, and she's looking at the Stark missile, and apparently, lo and behold, well, before we're going a little bit too ahead, let's talk about the beginning, the intro for this with Agnes, and how
Oh,
it was basically they're doing well, not necessarily Salem witch trial, but a trial of the coven on her.
that was so good. That was such a great twist on it, especially for people who might know Agatha Harkness's backstory because she was one of the Salem witches. And if you notice, there's a whiny dog over there. I'm sorry.
I didn't. Uh, I was gonna.
Uh,
I was gonna bring.
but
Up, I was gonna bring up. It was so difficult to watch this episode this morning because my internet was still acting shitty. So when she was up there tied up and the other witches were doing the power, it freeze frame, and I'm like, "What's up, dog?"
that's what you're like.
But yeah. So yeah.
Sorry, it's
Yeah.
a mood. Keep it.
Yeah.
Keep it.
Go ahead and talk about your other thing.
Agatha
Yours.
Harkness.
Hold on.
Agatha
The
Harkness.
dogs were picking up
They
bigger
got
than
things to
you.
say.
Yeah.
They weren't watching the episode, but they're very upset they didn't get to watch it with me. But Agatha Harkness. Yeah, I mean, my turn first. What we know of Agatha Harkness from the comics is that she is a witch from the Salem witch trials, and she was burned at the stake, or at least they attempted to burn her at the stake. It didn't stick.
Didn't work.
So when the episode cuts in and we saw that this is Salem 16, whatever the hell, and she's being carted away and being set to a post, it does that classic MCU thing where it lulls you into this false sense of security that you know what's going on until you don't. Because then when she's put on that stake, you're like, oh, well, see, we're gonna actually get to see them try to burn her at the stake, and they're like, nope, they magically bind her to it. It's like, wait, what?
She was sucking the life out of him.
Oh no, that came later. I'm just saying, but like it is the Salem witch trials, but it's not the Salem witch trials like we would expect it to be. It is literally a Salem witch on trial by other witches. It's like, it's so perfect. It's a pun that writes itself.
You pretty much brought up the same joke as Wreck-It Ralph did, and he was like, "You would really hit a person with glasses?" And Wreck-It Ralph takes the glasses off and hits him with it. It was like, "Oh, you really did hit a person with glasses." But yeah, so moving on. I want to keep it going. So yeah,
yeah.
So yeah, then it cuts. Go ahead.
Well, I just you touched on it for a moment. I want to make sure we get that, because it's important to possibly see where Agatha's motives are when we see the witches attempt to execute her for the crimes of dabbling in dark magic. To which her response was that it wasn't necessarily that she sought it out; the dark magic bent to her. They didn't believe that, so they attempted to effectively magically execute her, and then she use that connection that they effectively established with her to drain all the witches, including her mother. Even after she pleaded with her mother, it's like, please, Mom, I can be a good person. And her mother didn't believe it.
Now you can't.
So that's where the brooch came from. I thought for a second that maybe this was actually her intention. She wanted them to put her on trial, that she wanted to drain them. But I don't think that she wanted her. I wasn't sure if I was conflicted as to whether or not she actually wanted to kill her mother that way, or if it was just almost a retaliatory thing. It's like, you're doing this to me. The only way I'm going to survive is by taking you out.
Yeah. So you know what this means, right? With the witches being in the MCU, Harry Potter's part of the MCU now. Anyway,
it's been Dumbledore all along.
Anyway, but yeah, so we go back to the basement scene, and Agatha's pretty much like, all right, so how did you do it? Trying to fill in the and me, I watched this while I was at work again, just to get a little more refresher of the episode, and basically Agatha's showing Wanda, like, before Wanda gets all pissed and try to use her magic.
How difficult it is. Yeah, how difficult it is to do the things that she was doing.
Yeah, she was like, Agatha was like, here, mind control, and then changing shape and appearances. Hence, where the sword people were realizing it's rewriting everything. So technically, that wasn't like, I'm thinking, like, when you first hear that, you're thinking of something like digital or something. No, it's actually witchcraft that's doing all this. And go ahead.
It recontextualizes everything. Where like Agatha flying in the face of that catchy tune that's in everyone's heads at the moment, including mine. I can't stop. I'm sorry. Then I'll just keep singing it until it is stuck in your head, because like it's an infection. Agatha was definitely stirring the tea, and I get to like be that nerd to like stand on that pedestal and say I was right.
It was Agatha all along.
Well, remember what I was saying was that I feel like that whatever is the malevolent entity in this situation, it's pushing Wanda to use her powers in whatever way, like in even greater ways than she had already been. Like, think about it. The reason why she killed Sparky was really to push to see if she could revive Sparky. she even teased the notion when Agatha is kind of like spilling the tea on everything that she had done. Um, uh, she copped out to Pietro, like fake Pietro, but she didn't necessarily say that that was all her. Just as she was effectively using him as her eyes and ears,
Hmm.
because she said specifically, she said necromancy was out of the question because the real Pietro's body was was several countries away, which means necromancy is a possibility. Uh, but I think she wanted to see if Wanda could do it because this is all like, if you can imagine her as like a mad scientist but with magic, this is all fascinating to her. She wants to know how Wanda's doing all this shit.
Yeah, and after showing her the little spells and stuff, she's like, you know what? Let's go back into your past. Hence, we've already talked about the missile scene with her parents and how
Yeah,
when the Stark missile came down, Wanda reached out to stop it. Well, if like this is where the whole thing switches up. You realize Wanda did not get the powers from the scepter from the Mind Stone.
from the Mind Stone. Yeah,
She was a
no,
witch. She was pretty much a witch already.
yep. Like Agatha postulates that the Mind Stone really just reignited something that would have died out on its own. This little something that may have been the reason why her and her brother survived for 2 days, and why the missile didn't go off. It's that Wanda, using her innate abilities,
I think what was it?
prevented it.
Probability.
Probability magic, which is what everyone in like the comics and in like any animated version of the Scarlet Witch they've attributed to what her powers are, that she can affect probability. I remember one of the coolest episodes from the X-Men Evolution series, if you ever watched it,
I
was
remember.
when Wanda first showed up and she was causing things like Cyclops' beams to fire on a curve, and for Jean Grey's telekinesis to rebound back on her.
Damn, it's
She
been a
could
while.
do.
I don't even remember Scarlet Witch being in that cartoon.
She was in Magneto had her in a psychiatric ward and pulled her out to try and see if he could use her, because he was using a powerful telepath to try and control her that way. But yeah, no. What was it? Oh, uh, remember how in Thor Ragnarok Doctor Strange was able to help uh, Thor find Odin with a strand of hair?
Ah, yeah.
She did the same thing in order to cast her spell to relive
Well, she was just
Wanda's
going back in
memories.
time. But yeah, so after the missile scene, they went to which was like the biggest the scene that I love the most out of this episode is where they go to, I guess, what was it,
Hydra.
Hydra's
Yep.
little
They go.
facility,
Hmm.
and they bring Wanda in to go mess with the scepter. They don't know about the Mind Stone at this point.
Wait,
And the
wait,
dude's,
I'm sorry.
I know which part you're talking about, where the dude's like, "Hey, Doc, everybody doesn't has touched this, has died," and click, be like, click,
Oh shit! I forgot. I was hitting I was on the button the whole time.
click. So yeah, that, and then all like, this is where I'm like I don't know if the scientist guys saw it, like the the
No.
placeholder with the stone lifting out of the
Yeah.
scepter and then going up to Wanda, and then next thing you know, it shatters and you see the Mind Stone and Wanda's off. And
I
then
don't think they did. I think that was a vision that was essentially given to her, and in the reflection in her eyes, you could see the image of what Wanda the silhouette of what classically Wanda looks like as the Scarlet Witch, even with like the helmet and such. Made me sit there and think it's like, could she have grandfathered her own magic powers to herself? Like, could that be a future version of Wanda that like through the Mind Stone? Because the Mind Stone the Mind Stone is, and I feel like I've complained about this before. The Mind Stone, and by extension the Soul Stone, if you ignore its like special circumstances and it's seeming to be like conscious. Um,
hold on, I hear that dog dying over there.
I think she wants to go out. Uh,
But yeah,
they're very demanding. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
but yeah, so go ahead, go
But
ahead.
hold on. Uh, the Mind Stone in the comics is literally the physical manifestation of the entire universe's collective unconscious. That's why anyone, not just like a actual telepath, holding it becomes the most powerful telepath in the entire universe. Um, so boiling it down to being this rock that you stick in a stick, and then when you poke people with it, you control them. It's like that is a very watered down interpretation of the whole thing. But um, do you think do you think that about what do you think about that the grandfather paradox, effectively potentiality of this?
Which one? What are you talking about?
Well, what I said before about how that vision that she got, where she kind of saw a silhouette of
Scarlet
what
Witch.
she would kind of look like in a classical Scarlet Witch costume, kind of descending down almost like as if from heaven.
I don't know, man.
And that's how her power survived, and how she got, which then makes you wonder. It's like, well, then did Pietro only get her power? Did
Yeah,
Pietro
they
only get
didn't.
powers because she wanted him to? She wanted to make sure he survived
Yeah, that
because
they
she
didn't
was
fill that
first. I
in.
have to imagine she was first.
Yeah, so they didn't mention anything about him. So, but I mean, I don't know. When they showed it, I was like, oh shit. Is it? You know, like clearly, you know, that's like classic costume Scarlet Witch,
Yeah,
and I don't want to say it was from
the
like
future.
the future, you know, because I don't know how that would can be like. I wanted to watch.
I mean, it's the Mind Stone, not the Time Stone. I get
Yeah,
it, but it's still like I've seen anime who did like a similar thing recently too. Actually, it's like a newer anime where a character's future self gives them the powers that they would get later, but
yeah,
as a child.
yeah. So like, that's why I wanted to watch Age of Ultron when Tony Stark and what's his name, goddamn Hulk, Bruce Banner. Uh,
First Banner.
yeah, when they were discussing the Mind Stone, and I believe they had said something about it was like a whole collective, like you were saying, of all these souls or something like that. I can't really remember, but
Collective unconscious.
yeah,
But
I mean because we'll talk about it near the end where
they kind of thought it was like they kind of thought it was like a supercomputer when
yeah,
when they were trying to analyze it.
yeah, but
But
moving
they didn't even know that there was a stone underneath the stone.
yeah,
That was the whole thing.
but moving on to the next part of Wanda's memory, which I believe was
Oh,
um, her
it was
salt.
after Age of Ultron.
Yeah, her sulking,
After Age of Ultron. Yeah.
sulking in the bed,
Damn
you
it,
know,
man.
and then Vision comes in, and like when they were watching Malcolm in the Middle, and like
Classic.
he
Classic.
he's trying to you know make her feel better and everything, and she just like only thing that will make me better if I see him again, and it's so such a cold line. And I know I've been on the receiving end of that too, where somebody says something so cold, and Vision's just like, "Well, damn, I was just trying to help
For a,
you."
for a split second, we know that Vision can alter his appearance. I was like, don't turn into Pietro. Don't do that. That's the wrong move, man. Don't do that. We've never seen him take on anyone's appearance other than just like making himself look normal. But it's like, okay, well, if you could change your appearance, like manifest a cape, it wouldn't be that far fetched if he was like, well, here's your brother. That's what you wanted, right?
But yeah, but you know, eventually something happened on the TV, and Vision started laughing, and then she's
Oh, well, he had that
like,
great line about how grief is also a manifestation of love.
yeah. So I
Pull
don't.
her out of it. It's like, oh, such a good line.
So you know, after that, we go to the supposedly sword facility where she supposedly stole Vision's body. But in other words,
Mm-hmm.
she goes down there, and I'm gonna get back to what's the dude's name? How I can't remember his name.
Hayward,
Hayward.
director Hayward.
I'm gonna get back to his ass later. But yeah, she goes down there and you know touches his head, and it's like I can't feel you, and I'm like, God damn, you making this episode so sad. And it's
No, but
like
do you remember? Do you remember what that's a callback to?
I know.
Okay. Go for
I
it.
know. Tell the audience what it is because probably they wouldn't know.
It was a callback from Infinity War when Wanda and Vision were hiding out, living
I
normal
can.
lives, and
Oh, that
Vision
actually
was
feels good.
contemplating, and Vision was contemplating just ruining the energy. Vision was contemplating what a sense of self and whether or not there was like was he a person or was he just whatever the stone was.
Hmm.
So he asked Wanda, "It's like, tell me what you see, tell me what you feel." And you can see her channeling her magic into the stone, or now we know it's her magic, but channeling her power into the stone. And she said, "All I feel is you." So then when she comes, when Hayward, like she's at the facility, and again, like I said, this is an episode of context because Hayward gives us a stilted, a uh, manipulated version to allow himself to remain as like the good guy in the situation. But the context is that she did not go there in anger. She did not steal the body. He gave her a chance to grieve, but honestly, what he was trying to do was supplant the idea in her mind to bring him back because they must have figured out that they couldn't
Okay.
start him up, but maybe she
Okay.
could.
Okay. Now this is
Uh,
where I'm gonna
so
stop
she
you.
goes down there.
I'm gonna stop you
Okay,
right there because now we talking about this motherfucker. I think this motherfucker knows what's going on and he's seen the future because one, the line you just said, where he's basically talking about you're not trying to bring him back online or something like that, and then she's like, "No, I don't even, I can't even do that." And I'm like, "Okay, that's interesting." He would say that. How would he know that she'd be able to do that? Okay. And then there was that part
it is.
in the one episode where they were having that like little briefing, and Jim Woo was talking about Wanda, and he was like, she doesn't have any other aliases or any other names. He's like, no, sir. Why would that be brought up at that briefing? Does he know
I
about
didn't think about that.
Does he know about Scarlet Witch?
Well, you know who's an up and coming villain, played by a very handsome and absolutely gorgeous, which is the same thing, actor from Lovecraft Country. Kang the Conqueror is famously a time traveler who attempts to manipulate the time stream. He's going to be the villain in the newest Ant-Man. So with him on the horizon, could be. I didn't catch that. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
But real quick to go back to Wanda, she goes down there and again she channels her power into Vision's forehead where the Mind Stone was, but she couldn't feel him anymore. It's like I can't feel you. You're not here. And that's when she kind of has to accept. She has to accept it and she moves on. Oh, and then we get the context as to why she's in Westview. What was that? Like immediately, like she gets in the car and you see that note on the passenger seat, and you find out that Westview was Vision's idea, and that gives even greater context as to what was the heart on the calendar,
uh,
because he put the heart on the house,
now here's my thing
and
because
that was the first day of their time in Westview.
yeah, my issue I'm having is what's up with the police officers then? If it was already Westview and those cops that were out there saying they're from a town called Eastview, so what's up with that?
Oh, I think that was just like I feel like Wanda subconsciously created them to effectively be like guard dogs
Okay,
to direct people away from Westview, so no one else was caught up in it.
all right,
So there was like, nah, there's no place called Westview.
hmm.
Where are you from? Eastview.
But
What
yeah,
direction? It's like that away.
so eventually, you see Wanda bringing back Vision to life, and then eventually the whole fucking town changes into the 1950s, 60s, whatever the hell decade it was. And
Did you see? Did
go
you
ahead.
notice that her powers? I'm sorry. Um, you're jumping a little bit further ahead than I was thinking of. But uh, did you notice that there was that in her greatest grief in that moment, of which we've seen that it's in her grief that her powers emit in that kind of explosive way. This is just the exact same thing that happened after Pietro died, dialed up to 11. But every time she's ever used her powers, they never looked like that. There was darkness in there. Mm. So,
I don't know.
yeah,
So
take that
yeah,
as you will.
yeah. So then eventually, everything's all black and white again. Basically it's pretty much the first episode again, and then it cuts back, and
Wanda, welcome home.
yeah, and then Agatha over there, bravo, cut, and then you see Wanda snap back into the basement, and she hears her children, and right out in the middle of the damn street is Agnes with the whatever magic she got, not hanging, but got her kids in this spell or whatever, and she's like, "You're dangerous, Wanda. You know, you're using chaos
You're supposed to
magic.
be a myth.
Yeah, you're using chaos
Chaos magic.
magic, and you're the Scarlet Witch." Dun dun dun, and fades to black. Son of a bitch.
They have to see. They always have to earn these things because if they just like came up with it, like that scene from X-Men: The First Class, it's like we're coming up with names. I'm Mystique and you're Magneto. It's like at that point, it's like you can't take that shit seriously. It's like okay, yeah, like that sounds organic. Who the fuck thinks of Magneto?
I
But
like
uh,
magnets.
but where do you get Magneto? Like
uh,
go with Magnet Man at least. Like
so yeah,
be a Mega Man villain.
so yeah.
But
X Men aside, then the post credit scene, if you want to break that down. Because I
I
like
honestly
when I watched it, I didn't even know what the hell it was. I was like, okay, another Vision.
in this moment, I am in the same place as you are. I know of the White Vision. I don't know anything about the White Vision as far as the context for the comics. But um, something I want to impress upon you is the idea that remember with these revelations, and we're getting the theory territory now. Um,
Only 30
with the
minutes in.
revelations that we got out of this with the revelations that we got out of this episode, we know that technically the Mind Stone just essentially revitalized Wanda's abilities. It didn't bestow those abilities upon her. But if you think about it, Wanda has been exposed almost like to the totality, you could say, of the Mind Stone twice. In this instance, and when Vision has her destroy it. Think about it. Destroying like a container with the energy of an Infinity Stone is what creates Marvel. My theory is that while the Vision that was within the hex uh, was constructed, it was formed from that energy of the Mind Stone, literally being pulled out of Wanda. Think about it. It wasn't necessarily like perhaps that was her will, but unlike her reshaping matter with her magic, uh, the Vision was formed from that yellow Mind Stone energy. That's why he has powers of his own. My theory is that what we have going on here is three pairs squaring up for a final confrontation. You have Monica is going to be against Pietro, fake Pietro. Wanda is going to be against Agnes because either Agnes wants this power for herself, or she views Wanda as just being too dangerous and thinks that she needs to take her out. And then we're going to have Hex Vision versus White Vision, and it's going to end up with a reconstituted Vision, where now Vision. The reason why Vision can't leave the hex is because he doesn't actually have a body outside the hex. Thus,
I
he
figured
like
as
his
much.
physical form only exists within the hex. So for him to actually, this will be the first actual Marvel Comics S revival where he'll have a new body to essentially inhabit that will be sans an actual Infinity Stone in his forehead. So no forehead beams anymore. just the flying around and density shifting.
Yeah. So, what would you give this episode?
Oh, I'd give this episode a 9.
Nah.
Fuck that. I give this episode a 10. I'm sorry.
Really?
The emotional payoffs and yes, the emotional payoffs in this episode were great. It didn't waste any time with any side shit, and it took you it took you a trip through Wanda's despair.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna speak for the people that for probably having the same problem that you mentioned earlier. The whole episode was a side shit. This was filler. We already knew this stuff. But I'm not one of those people, so I agree. I'm gonna give it a 9. I liked it. I liked it better than the last two.
I give it a 10 because of its placement. If this was like a like if like everything with the MCU, its impact is heightened by the steady, practical and necessary buildup.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've laid the groundwork for this episode for all this context to weigh down on you. Like I felt like I was in the hex throughout this episode, where like all of Wanda's despair was suddenly on my shoulders. It's like now we know what the hell she's carrying, and you can understand why she would just cut loose. None of it was something that she really intended. It was just
Brain fart.
exactly.
Okay. Anyway, go
No,
ahead. All right, I'm gonna try to wrap this up because it's about to say I don't want to be approaching no hour mark. Go ahead and open the file I gave you.
Okay.
And before all right, I'm gonna need you to try to hopefully sync this up. Don't play it all the way. Just go to the beginning and pause it.
Okay.
Hopefully, I can get this right.
Downloading. I should have done this sooner.
I mean, it's only taking 2 seconds for you.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead and hit play.
I'm Rick James, bitch. So fucked up.
I don't know why that popped in my head. I don't know why that popped in my head. I was like, "Yo, that's so perfect. I gotta make it before somebody takes it."
On that note, that is what we're going to leave you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have an idea on what you think, how do you think the show is going to wrap up? Are we going to get that possible 10th episode? Because we were promised 3 final episodes that were each going to be an hour. Don't lie to me, Feige.
He lying.
Or what's your opinion on my theory? Put it down in the comment down below. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe so you know when we're going to do any videos. Hit that bell notification button. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Peace.
Deuces.